I'm headed for a land that's far away, beside the crystal fountain. So come with me, we'll go and see the big rock candy mountains.
And we are off and running. This is the Great Classic Rock Debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul with zero qualifications, bringing up the rear.
That's my man. And Steve is doing something tonight. Is he?
He's in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
What do you do there?
It's all kind of snowy outdoors. He's a wildlife photographer.
Okay.
Yeah, so
all right. Good for him. Wish I was there. Okay, so anyway, the Great Classic Rock Debate, we talk anything and everything classic rock. We try to have a good time. We try to have fun. We also try to keep it interesting. If you're watching, please like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out our sister channel, the Great Classic Movie Debate. Okay, now we've talked about such a great variety of things, and I think I've probably made this point before, but I'll repeat it just sort of as a lead.
Please do.
Tonight.
Please do.
Right. So, I mean, we're both lifelong rock fans, so it's not as if I need a reason to enjoy talking about the music that I grew up with and the music I love and all that. But there is a particular element, I guess. It's the nostalgia. I mean, that just makes it so extra special. It's one thing to say, I love this song. It's another thing to say, I love this song, and it takes me back to this time or moment, whatever, in my life. And it's just the memory, just flooded with emotions and memories and so forth. And that type of thing makes it extra special for me. I assume it does for you too.
Yeah, you know what's really weird is certain songs, let's say I ever heard a song like Terra Salambra by Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
When that album came out, I was, me and Brad were driving across the country, you know, Brad, and he was like a year older, a year and a half older than me, and I was trying to keep awake. We're in the middle of the night. It was like 8 people in this van. I'm trying to keep awake, and that album was on, and I was like trying to talk to him, and I could see him fall asleep. I'm like, well, yeah. And that's the song where I was kind of bumping him a little bit to keep him awake. But the thing is, until I thought about Keller Salambra right now, my brain would not have gone back there. So that memories are hidden in us and they're unlocked, or they're unlocked, but the door is open, right? So you got to
right.
And then you hear some song, and then oh my god,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah. It's funny that you just mentioned that, because I doubt if you're going to remember this, but in '87 when we drove up for the Auburn Florida game in Auburn, that was one of the tapes. There was no CDs in the car yet, I don't think. That was one of the tapes that we were playing in Through the Outdoor. And well, we listened to a variety of stuff, but I remember specifically listening to that one as we were on the road.
Wow, man, see, like I remember us going to Auburn, and we talked about this on another show where I would play If the World, and you didn't know who it was. I said, this is Guns N' Roses. She's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, it is. But it's just those little things stick in your mind, you know?
It really does. Yeah. So anyway, that brings us to tonight's topic, tonight's subject matter, and it's going to be Billy Squier. Okay. So even though he released an album in 1980, which was titled The Tale of the Tape, it was his 1981 album, Don't Say No, that launched him into superstar. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to sort of relive some of the timeline there, at least how it played out for me.
Okay.
And then I'll certainly invite you to join in. So this would have been, I'm thinking I was probably a junior at that time in college, perhaps leading into my senior year. But I do remember specifically that this album by Billy Squier, it was released contemporaneously. Maybe I have this wrong, but you tell me, as Moving Pictures by Rush.
God, that could be right.
And the reason I'm saying this is because you remember, like, okay, we lived in a fraternity house at this time, and everybody borrowed everybody's records, you know, and I didn't mind loaning. Well, actually, I didn't really like loaning them because you never
I
knew
know.
if the person was going to take care of them. Right. But at the same time, you expected them to loan you theirs. So you couldn't say no. I probably would say, give me a cassette tape and I'll take it. That's probably what I did. But I remember borrowing. There was somebody in the fraternity who had a really good collection of rock, and they stayed current. If there was something out that was popular and was good, they would go buy it. I don't remember who it was, but I'm 99% sure I borrowed those two records together, Moving Pictures by Rush and Don't Say No by Billy Squier. And I think I copied them onto opposite sides of a 90-minute cassette tape. I'm almost positive of that.
Wow.
Anyway, the lead single from Billy Squier was The Stroke. All right. Now, for me, although it was a good hard rock song, I thought the lyrics were irritating. Okay. That was the one thing that kept me from really loving the song. And at that age, okay, again, there was no YouTube and there was no Google. So you just listen to it and try to sort of piece it together yourself. And I thought it was some sort of juvenile sexual thing, right? So that's kind of what I thought it was about. And I liked the song. I just didn't like the repetitive stroke me. Okay. So anyway, it wasn't that I disliked it, but I just felt like it falls short of being great because of that. All right. So I don't know how much longer it was, a month or two later, whatever, but I'm hearing this song. In fact, we're getting bombarded with this song on the radio. All right. Which is okay, but I don't love it enough to hear it 24/7 the way they were playing it. And then there was some spring event in Atlanta, fraternity thing. Do you remember what that was called? Was it Teak Fest?
A winter formal, or because house party was.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that. That would be in the winter. This was in the spring, and it was outdoors, and it was held at another teak house, like maybe the one in Georgia Tech. Okay,
I never had that.
It was just a big beer party. Was all it was, and about half a dozen different chapters of our fraternity would show up. So there would be a lot of people. Yeah. And a lot of people, a lot of drinking. They had fun competitions, lip sync contests, and that kind of thing. And for me, it was just unlimited beer and meeting some of the hot little sisters from other chapters. You know, that was like the best part.
Who aren't tired of you yet?
Exactly right. So no, you're right. So that night, when we're piling in the car, I don't remember who I rode over there with. And I think I was just bumming a ride each way. I don't think I had any game plan. So I don't remember who I rode over, but coming back, again, it was somebody who was into rock. And I don't remember who it was, but he says, I got an extra seat if you want to ride with me. So I got in the back, we were riding. And he pops in Don't Say No by Billy Squier. Right?
The whole album.
But he's got the entire thing on cassette tape. And I've only heard the song, The Stroke. I haven't heard anything else. All right. So he puts it in and turns it up. And as the music starts coming on, I said, so what are we listening to? And he says, Billy Squier. And I go, oh, okay, cool. And as that opening track comes in, which is In the Dark.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going, holy crap, is this good? Oh my God. I mean, oh, here comes Steve. Awesome. So anyway, I'm sitting here listening because, again, I know one song is Stroke, and this song comes on and starts playing, and it rocks, you know? And not only does it rock, but lyrically it's great. It's well written. It's well produced. And of course, he's like, hey, Steve, how's it going? Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Oh, we can and we can hear you, good audio and everything. All right,
great.
let's give Steve just a quick catch up. Our topic for the night is Billy Squier, and I'm sort of laying a little background because I was telling Paul, because I was like a junior in college at the time. This really has a huge element of nostalgia for me. Takes me back to I don't know. I don't know if everybody's life at that moment when you're a junior in college is great because
no,
you don't have any real responsibilities other than passing your classes, and you're drinking and having a good time. And I mean, for me, I had never really dated lots of chicks, at least not the way at that point in time. I was meeting girls all over the place and was, pursuing them. I don't want to offer too many grotesque details, but anyway, so we had gotten in the car. We're heading back from Atlanta. It's a 2-hour drive, and he puts on Billy Squier's "Don't Say No." The opening track, "In the Dark," comes on, and I'm back there, and I'm just mesmerized. I'm just going, "Wow, this is great." And Steve, you're going to be a little too young to fully appreciate this, but at the time that album was released, they were sort of doing the Overkill thing with The Stroke. Okay, and by the way, that song has stood the test of time. You still hear it to this day. But at that time, they were playing it too much. And although I thought it was a good song, playing that one song over and over again is not going to convince me that Billy Squier is something to get excited about. So now, in the car and hearing the entire album play through, I'm like, OMG, this is great. Because In the Dark opens it, and then I think The Stroke is next, and then My Kind of Lover is next after that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
God, I hear it.
Yeah.
How many albums have a stronger opening 3 tracks than that? I mean, think about it. And the whole album is really, really good. But to hear those 3 to open it, you sit there and go, wow.
And what's cool is you had never heard it before, so you're like,
right.
It's kind of a cool thing, when you hear it for the first time, you're like, oh wow, this is pretty damn cool.
I'm telling you, that's why my memory of that moment is just, I'm overflowing with it right now, because again, I had been drinking a lot. And so I get in the car and I'm pretty drunk, had a lot of beer that day. And all of a sudden I'm getting blasted. This is a high quality stereo, whoever's car I was in. I'm getting blasted, and I've never heard it before. And I'm blown away by how good it was. I couldn't wait to go buy it.
Hey, before I forget, this has absolutely nothing to do with anything we're talking about.
Okay.
But when you said memories of you, and then my memory of you at Auburn was with Trish.
Right.
And I want you to decide on a certain story that happened at the Haunted Mansion. And all I'll say, if you want to tell it. If you don't, we'll skip it. But you know what I'm talking.
Yeah, of course. It's one of the greatest. You know what?
When you said Trish, I went, oh my God, I forgot.
Yeah. No, it's a great story, but in order for me to tell that story, I have to give the full length version, which I can't do in 2 or 3 minutes. So perhaps we'll do another episode. We'll do it on a different episode, and I will tell it and have a blast telling it. Yeah, but we won't do that tonight. Okay, so anyway,
right. I just want to bring that up.
So you guys now go ahead and open up and give me whatever your initial reactions were with Billy Squier or whatever. We'll move forward.
Steve, you want to go ahead, buddy?
Yeah. So The Stroke obviously is the biggest track from that record.
Right.
I had heard that in the gym when I was in high school. I was probably a junior when I actually discovered that album.
Okay.
But I had heard it for a couple of years in the gym, and we're like, this is in the early 90s. And so eventually I found out who it was that sang it. And then I went over and bought the CD, got home, put it in, and I was blown away. I was like, wait, there are other great songs on this album.
Yes.
Right.
Like, In the Dark, I was like, that is one of the best opening tracks on any.
The way that sound of the guitar is really cool.
It's unreal.
And to me, I've always wondered kind of like what happened to Billy Squier. It feels like, was there a period of time that, I hate to say it, like he became uncool? Because if you look at the, I think it was the movie Happy Gilmore with
Adam Sandler.
When he goes back to school, he shows up in like high school. He's like, 10 years older than everybody else, driving the Trans Am and listening to Billy Squier. And they're like, look, who's this loser? I just
Right. No, we're gonna.
he thinks he's gonna be cool, but
Right.
that's
Trust
Billy
me.
Squier is just like the unsung hero
Right.
of,
Okay. So
of
trust
rock.
me,
So
within the confines of tonight's episode, we're going to cover the chronology and how things played out for Billy Squier. I just want to follow a timeline. So that's why I want to start with Don't Say No. And by the way, Steve, right before you came on, I mentioned he had an album from 1980 called The Tale of the Tape that didn't sell real well. I've gone back and listened to it, and I would call it decent rock, but there's nothing that sets it apart. So when you compare that to Don't Say No, it's easy to recognize instantly why Don't Say No launched him the way it ultimately did. Should also mention that The Stroke is one of those songs they still play to this day at football games and stadium events or whatever.
Well, after I tell my story, I want you to tell me what the meaning of The Stroke is. But first, I'm going first.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I worked at this restaurant, and I was younger, college guy, so 17, 18, and there was a waitress there who was much older, probably 25, 28. And that song would be on inside the restaurant, and she would go around and she'd be like acting it out, Stroke. And then one night we got to hook up. And while she's doing her thing to me, she's singing it while she's doing all of her thing to me. And this chick was spectacular, right? It was like she puts on a show, and she was singing and doing all these things, and Stroke me, and she was like dancing naked around the room. And I was like, I gotta remember every single second of this so that it'll be a burn in my brain for the rest of my life. And then that night, after she goes, look, I just did this because you're a nice kid. Don't tell anybody, because I have a boyfriend. He'll probably come and kill you if he knows we did this. I'm like, okay, cool.
was it all in the dark?
It was very lonely too.
Right.
My others, real quick, quick Billy Squier story. I went to see where the Miami Arena is now. There used to be a park called Bicentennial Park.
Yes.
So on Labor Day, like 1980, let's say 1994.
Hold on, just for the record. I saw Hootie and the Blowfish in Bicentennial Park. Like,
oh my God.
Back around 1995 or something like that.
So I go there. It's like 470,000 degrees. And it's out in the open in Miami. And you're like, thank God there's a little bit of breeze. So there's this pole. I don't know I think it was for a circus tent. It had to be like 60 feet tall. So I'm about 100 yards from the stage. I see this pole, and I look up. I can see a woman's butt coming out of her shorts. And I can just see. And I look up. Oh, that's Kid Swing. And the cops are all surrounding her, right? And I say, okay, whatever. And Brad's like, oh. Looking at her. So finally I go around, I go around the pole and I can see her face. I said, oh, I know that girl. She works out at my gym. And the cops are like, come down. I said, no. She says, you're going to arrest me because she's drunk. You could tell. She's 60 feet in the air, by the way. She's shimmying up that pole. There's nothing else around it, just a pole.
Oh, okay. So she just climbed it.
Yeah. I was like, oh, my God.
Okay.
So I I was like a lawyer, started negotiating with the cops. Okay. I said, whatever your name is, Officer Suarez. If she comes down, if she comes down in the next 5 minutes, I promise you I won't arrest her. I'm like, okay. So I called her. I forgot her name. If we start talking, come down. I promise you, I'm your lawyer. So she came down. Everyone's clapping for her. And then she hugged the cops. And the cop says, if you go back up there, I'm going to arrest you.
That was Officer Ramirez, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Officer. I'll have to tell Kenny that one later. Steve, that was good. So it was, and then Billy Squier comes on, and then because I was going to try to hook up with her, and I turn around, she's gone. And then at the gym, she's like, "Didn't I see you at the Billy Squier concert?" I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah, what year was this?
Tell her everything.
What year was this?
96, 95, 94.
Okay. Okay. All right. Probably
right. All right, that's my story.
Okay, good enough. Probably right around the same time I saw.
The third track on that album is My Kind of Lover.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Lonely as the Night is
that's on side 2.
Those were I always get those mixed up.
Paul, did you say Lonely as a Night is 6?
Correct, because that was the first track on side 2.
That's what we had a whole show about that.
Yeah, because I only had the CD, so
I know, but you're too young to understand all that. But,
yeah.
So that's why Heartbreaker is the first track
Right.
on side 2 of Led Zeppelin 2.
Track 1 on side 2 was almost always a good song.
Yeah, because
And
otherwise you had no incentive to flip the album over.
Right.
All
Okay,
right,
so
Kenny.
does anybody have any more thoughts on Don't Say No? Because I'm about to move forward.
Well, hold on. I want you to tell me what the stroke is about then.
Oh, okay. Let me, and I heard an interview with Billy Squier, and when I heard it, I go, oh, wow, that makes sense. You know, back at that age, it just seemed like virtually every song had some thinly veiled sexual reference or whatever. So okay, but no, he was talking about when he was trying to get into the music industry and talking to different agents or whatever, how they would blow smoke up his butt, making him all these fake promises, and he'd be going, yeah, stroke me. So in other words, so when he writes the songs, that's exactly what it was about, about dealing with the fake, all of the fake personalities that he had to deal with as he's coming up in the music, and people making him all kinds of promises that he knows they can't keep.
Hey,
right?
We missed that on our show about doing songs about the industry. We missed that song. Or did we not?
Oh, no, you're right. No, you're right. You're exactly right. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, moving forward, 1981, Don't Say No, launched him. It's a great album. And if you're watching right now and you've never heard that album, oh my God, you're missing out. Go get it and listen to it. It's some of the best rock you'll ever hear. Okay. So 1982, probably by about summer, I think it was, he releases his next album, which is called Emotions in Motion.
Right.
Okay? Yeah. Now, because at this time, I am a certified Billy Squier fan. I mean, how could I not be after Don't Say No, right? I buy it the day it hits the stores because I know it's going to be great. And unfortunately, it's a disappointment. His playing is great, but the songs are just not that good. So I don't know if they had different songwriters this time, but it fit more into the category of what I would just sort of call generic throwaway rock, right? But the songs were so far below the standard that he had set with Don't Say No. And I think it sold reasonably well.
Did it have Everybody Wants You on that album?
Yeah, Everybody Wants You.
I think that was on that album.
That's a good song.
Yeah, it is.
That's a real good
the
song.
First track on that album.
I love that song.
Is it the first track or second? Okay, well, whatever. Yeah, it's an okay song. I don't think it's as good as any of this. Okay, all right, fair enough. It's opinions. But I can tell you as a whole. Yeah. The album did not. So, and that was really the only song that got any airplay off of that. Off of that album. Yeah, okay.
I've never even listened to that album. The only song I know off that is Everybody Wants You. And,
right. And it wasn't even the first, I don't think it was the first or second single. I think they released the song Emotions in Motion first, which was again a generic rock song. I think that Everybody Wants You was probably like the third, because it seems like it was early 83 when that was getting played. And remember, this album was released back in the summer of 82. So
you have a good memory, dude.
Yeah, I do. So it sold fairly well, but ultimately, in retrospect, it was not a great album, and he did not maintain the standard. He set a high bar for himself with Don't Say No. So this fell short. Go ahead.
Let me interrupt. Steve and I are big fans. We were of that metal show.
Okay.
Matter of fact, our friend Donnie got me on there a bunch of times. So I got to hang out with people. It was really cool. And this guy, Eddie Trunk, very famous guy. And we align somewhat with what we like in music, but he says some smart things. He goes, that first, and I realize that's not his first album, but he goes, if someone spends 4 years on an album and they put their heart and soul into it, and then that thing goes off and they go, now what do you have? You're like,
right.
And that sounds like what happened there. And that's also what happened. And you also said some brilliant things, Kenny. Like, we don't know behind the scenes what happened. This is why the Beatles and Zeppelin and Sabbath are gods, because all 4 of the guys could play. All 4 of them brought so much incredible stuff to the table. Like Ringo Starr, you watch that thing, and Ringo Starr's doing Octopus's Garden. That's his song. And he's just sitting there, and it's just like these super talented people. But if you're just one guy, unless you're Mozart,
Right.
And not only that, those bands you just named, their best albums are not their first album.
thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Right. Right.
That's right.
No, they've got the talent to keep creating new, original, great stuff. Not that I want to put a target on Pearl Jam. I don't hate them or anything. Their first album I thought was really good.
Yeah, it's
and
good.
man, did the standard fall badly after that. Yeah, they still had some good songs, but not like that first album.
Yeah. I mean, most bands have 5-6 years or their whole life, they're growing up as teenagers to write their first album.
Right.
And then after that, if it takes off, they have a year or two to write the follow-up. And the really great bands are able to succeed what they do on the first album. And those are very, very few.
Yeah. Steve, that is brilliant what you said. Their first album, like Led Zeppelin's first album, is basically covers.
Yep.
Of other people's songs and their own, which is basically confuses their own song. But and so Billy Squier, maybe he just, and some people, and this is the other thing think about this with the Beatles or Zeppelin or Sabbath, their egos, these guys have big egos, but at the same time, they're lowering their shields to work with other people. And I don't know if Billy Squier, I heard he's a really cool guy. Like I knew somebody out in LA who knows him. Yeah. And I don't know if his ego is so big, or maybe he thinks, I don't know. I just don't know. But sometimes you got to like lower your shields to collaborate. Go ahead.
I have a feeling that there were some record executives who probably made decisions that he might not necessarily have agreed with. But anyway, so moving forward, his next album was 1984 called Signs of Life. Okay. Now, the first single release straight to MTV, you guys have heard it a million times, Rock Me Tonight. And I think that's a pretty solid rock song myself.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. It got a lot of play on the radio. I think they probably still play that to this day on classic rock. I hear it. Okay. But here's where the problem came in. How well do you guys remember the video?
Oh, so we had the pink thing.
I've never seen it.
It's not good. It's not good. He's wearing this pink, tank top? It looks like pajamas almost, or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's dancing around in a way that communicates to the viewer, I am flaming gay. Okay? Because honestly, up until that moment in time, it never even crossed my mind.
Same here.
He's like most rockers, he probably is into chicks. But once I saw that video, I go, this guy's got to be gay. And I'm not, okay, seriously, I was asking people in the gym, like, did you see the video? He looks gay. And they're going, oh, he's gay. Everybody knows that. Like, people were saying with absolute certainty, no, he's gay. He's open about it. He's gay. So I just assumed it was true.
It's
right?
not true. Yeah.
No, he's married, for God's sake.
It's not true.
And the thing
especially at that time too, where
back
in the 80s, if you wore pink or had an earring, it was,
the dancing.
Eddie Murphy,
the dancing is the worst part. The pink is bad enough, but the way he's dancing and moving. By the way, the guy who directed the video is gay. That is a fact.
And remember, and Queen had just, like, not too recently did the one with Freddie Mercury, and people didn't realize even until very then he might, what I'm saying? Like it.
Right.
So.
Right. So Billy Squier, in spite of this really good song, which to me still sounds good to this day, but he suddenly becomes radioactive because it's like, classic rock dudes tend to be macho. They tend to be into chicks, and the chicks love them. The chicks worship, rock stars or whatever. And all of a sudden, he doesn't fit the mold at all. And in spite of the hit status of that song, his career effectively came to an end in that moment. Okay. I should also add that right around that same time, he released that song, Christmas is the Time to Say I Love You. Okay. Because he got together with a bunch of the personalities there at MTV, and they made a goofy little video, which is actually kind of cute. It turns out when I researched it, that song was the B-side to My Kind of Lover. Wow. From 81. But anyway, his career effectively ended right there. Oh, I should also add, Professor of Rock made an entire video about how Billy Squier's career came to a screeching halt because of that video. It's too bad because it's a great song. But anyway, so that's the story. So he continued to record for like the next 10 years or so and still made more albums, and they didn't sell and they didn't get played or anything, you know. So I've listened to some of it. Some of it I think is decent. Some of it I think is kind of generic. His playing is always top notch, you know. But anyway, so that's how things played out for him. All right. So you guys have any thoughts or anything on that?
I'm wondering if all that's true, which I know some of it is. Why didn't he fight it? Like maybe he. First of all, he's like maybe he says, "Look, there's anything wrong with being gay, but I'm not gay."
Like on Seinfeld.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
that there's anything wrong with
it, but I'm not gay. I like girls. Gay guys are cool. That's fine. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, yeah, I know. At that time, there was no internet.
Yes, Steve, you're right.
And MTV was so powerful, as just a visual medium.
Yeah.
That, back then people actually cared if somebody was in the closet or out of the closet or whatnot. And it did have the ability to ruin people's careers.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was obviously too young to know what was going on.
Yeah.
Back then at that, because now that you mentioned, I think I do recall seeing the video years later and just kind of laughing, going, "This is kind of absurd." But I didn't have MTV as a kid, so
yeah. Well, I couldn't care less about his sexuality, but the video, I mean, visually, it's a turnoff. It's like, I love this song, but I cannot look at this, man. It's bad.
And just because, go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say, one of these days we need to do a show on the best rock songs with the worst music videos.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But here's the thing about being gay. Because you're gay doesn't mean you have to make a bad video, right?
Yeah.
Like, look at Frankie Goes to Hollywood. 2 Tries to Go to War. That's a cool ass video.
Yeah,
I agree. It's cool.
Yeah.
And they're gay as gay can be. But
but rock is about the image, and if the image that you're portraying in that video is him dancing around, it looks.
I know, but he could be a gay guy climbing Mount Everest or beating up a bunch of people, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's probably more or less the image that he was being represented in the video.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so listen, we already got our warning. Time flies. So if you guys have any final thoughts or anything on Billy Squier, let's do that, and then we'll circle back and do our nominations.
No, I need to go back because I had that album, and after roommates, college, girlfriends, about 25, 30 of my really favorite album gone. I mean, the actual album, not the CD.
Right.
So, so I got to go back and re-listen because.
Oh, it's one of the best rock albums of the entire.
Yeah, that album I know very well, but after that is what I mean. Like,
okay, yeah.
The one thing I'd add about Billy Squier is I always thought that Fender makes a guitar called the Squier, which is kind of a brand. I always thought that it was
associated with him,
Billy Squier.
Okay,
but it's not.
Well, anyway, I just did a quick little Google on him, and he's 73 now, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And and happily married and has never been remotely gay in his life. So it was a hard thing, I guess, to have to overcome or whatever. And like you said, Steve, there was no internet back then, but he still plays here and there or whatever and still doing his thing. So I always liked him, and I'm happy to hear that he's in good health and still doing his thing. So,
yeah.
Okay, so here's going to be my nomination, especially since we're on the topic of Billy Squier. So we mentioned both of these songs, In the Dark and My Kind of Lover, and Lonely as the Night we mentioned too. So classic rock, my station does not play any of those. They play The Stroke and they play Rock Me Tonight, but they don't play any of the other songs. So I'm going to throw My Kind of Lover into the mix. This is a song that should be played. I mean, the question is, how do you not play that song on classic rock? But anyway, we're on Billy Squier. So My Kind of Lover, Billy Squier, play it. There you go.
Steve?
Well, I was going to say, I do hear those 3 songs. I don't hear In the Dark. I've never heard that on the radio, but My Kind of Lover.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. On classic rock radio. Real quick. So we haven't talked about Danzig in a while, but a couple of years ago during COVID, he released a Elvis tribute album, and I think
Really?
it's called Danzig Sings Elvis.
Okay.
So really great. There's only like one or two songs from Elvis that I'm familiar with, but Always on My Mind is on there, and it's a really good cover version. It's slow, it's not real heavy, but check it out. If you like Elvis, I think you'll like this cover version.
Wow.
Steve,
Okay.
you must be Steve, you're literally psychic. Well, number one, Danzig was known coming up as the evil Elvis. Okay,
Yes.
that was his nickname. Okay, I can't, Steve. I'm seriously, I'm almost speechless because the band I was going to recommend tonight was a band called Sons of Elvis, and they have a really cool album. It's about 37 minutes long. It is just fun rock, little slightly popish, but it's really good. And it's like, it talks about relationships. And there's a song called Rattle, and it's this guy who dated a girl like Kenny and I both dated, and he's like, you're stepping on our bodies on the way to your paradise. You're stepping on guys to get to where you want to get to. And he's like, I swear on my life, there's no way you're going to do that to me. And you could tell this song, this guy, like, he really went through this. It's not like some thing he's putting on. He's in pain. And it's like, whoa. And I played it for a friend of mine who was breaking up with his girlfriend. He started crying. This a long time ago, like in LA. And so it's a really good Sons of Elvis called Glowdean, Glodean, Glowdean by Sons of Elvis. Steve, you're psychic, buddy.
Wow, impressive. Okay, well, listen, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight then. Let me just throw out this little teaser real quick. Within the next week or two, whatever, I'm going to tell that Halloween story.
Yeah.
It is a classic. It is a classic. Okay, so just stay tuned for that. But until then, this is the Great Classic Rock Debate, and I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul.
I'm Steve.
Yes, and if you are watching, please like, comment, and subscribe. We will love you for that. Check out our sister channel, The Great Classic Movie Debate, and until we meet again, we'll see you next time.